about the words about our speaker. He'll be coming to share his testimony right now. He's someone who I met a little while back. I haven't known him that long, but he's had a profound effect in my life. I'm glad to have met him and to have heard some of his story and the power of it, the power of transformation that God has done in his life. I greatly appreciate him coming out to share with us today his recovery testimony, and I'll let him get into the story with you. And with that, I'd like to welcome Mr. Ralph Rivera.
Bless everybody.
Bless you. Bless you.
I always like to start by giving God the glory and thanking Him and asking Him to help me to speak. I don't know where He wants me to start, so as far as addiction is concerned, I'll start where I remember when it all began for me. I remember as a child being raised in foster homes in the orphanages, looking back on that part of my life and see how that led towards my gravitating towards a bunch of other kids who were runaways. And, as most kids were doing at that time, I told a lot of lies because I wanted to fit in. So I would tell them I was smoking weed and I did cigarettes and stuff just so I could blend in with them and, not be alone. And, we gravitate towards people that give us the attention. So that's pretty much where it started for me. I remember after leaving the foster home system, and just bear me because it's all going to lead towards the addiction part, living with my mom, but she turned out to be physically abusive, and that was a nightmare. And that was the first time that, God, I don't want to say the first time, but looking back on it, that is when I could say that God intervened in my life, where from the foster home system, He allowed me to make it through that. Every year was a different family, new friends, new school, seeing all the other kids with their families and wishing that, you could have that. And He helped me make it through that period of my life, saved me from drowning, saved me when I was in the second grade. I got hit by a motorcycle, had my leg, my nose, and skull fractured, and those are 2 times God came into my life as far back as I remember. But then I lived through the years with my mom and my dad. I don't want to get too much into that, but it was a bad time in my life. God helped me make it through that. I remember running away from home and standing on the side of a highway, trying to build up the courage, because as a 12-year-old kid, I can remember I just couldn't take it anymore. It was just too much for me. So I was trying to build up the courage because, in my mind at that time, the solution was just kill yourself. Because if you kill yourself, then you don't have to feel. You don't have to deal with nothing. And I didn't want to have to feel and go through that type of pain and suffering anymore at the age of 12. So I'm standing on the side of the highway trying to build up that courage. And every time a car would come and leave, I would say, okay, the next car. And then I would say the next car. And then I would say the next car, until eventually a thought came into my mind, and this is how I believe God came into my life again, because there was a path mark, and the thought was, just go to the path mark and buy a big bottle of aspirin, swallow that, and you'll be okay. You'll go out quietly. So that's what I did as a 12-year-old kid. I crossed the street. I wasn't going to jump in front of the cars anymore because I couldn't build up the courage to do that. But the point I'm trying to share is I was suffering as a 12-year-old kid, suffering. And, going back in my life, that's where it all began for me. The build-up leading me to the decision that I was going to make down the road where, I took the bottle of pills, but then I realized that I didn't want to die. So then God put the thought in my mind of, call 911 and let them know what you did, and maybe they'll save you in time. So that's what I did as a kid. They had payphones back then. They didn't have the cell phone, so I had to find the payphone, and I dialed 911. Anybody remember what a payphone is? I figured I'd throw that out there, And I grabbed the payphone, and I called 911, and they told me to wait for them, and I did, and they came and they got me. and they brought me to the hospital, and they brought me to what they call the psych ward for observation. That's where they take you when you're stressed out and going through situations like that. And out of all the places in the world to discover marijuana, that was the place where I discovered it, because there was a bunch of other kids that were there that were being observed, and everybody was just hanging out talking smack, and I was like, yeah, I smoke weed, blah, 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 like kids do, you know. And I don't know what happened one day. Hey, what's your name? Got some weed. Come on, we're going to go smoke it in the bathroom. So now the peer pressure was there. I couldn't back down now, right? I had to cover up my lies and maintain my image. That's why I really started developing an image. I didn't realize that I was doing that, but that's just what I was doing as a kid. Created my first image. I was hiding behind this facade that I was building of myself so that, you know, people could accept me and not see the me inside of me, the real me, you know, the kid that was hurting inside. That kid, and, you know, it wasn't cool. I couldn't let nobody see that kid, so I began to develop, you know, my image. Anybody can identify with that?
Yeah.
So I started developing the image. So that image caused me to have to go into the bathroom, and I'm standing in a circle. I'm standing like yesterday, and I'm watching them as they take two and pass. They're going all the way around, all the way around. I said, okay. And it finally came to me. I was like, oh, shit. Can't back down now. And I fell in love. The first time in my life, man, there was no pressure. I didn't feel depressed. I didn't feel sad. I wasn't thinking about the people that are causing me to feel sad. I didn't care about them. I didn't care about them. I felt good. It didn't matter that I was in a psych ward, hanging out with all the crazy people. I had everything I needed as a kid. I had some weed, I had a cigarette, I had some friends. I had some TV, because my mom wouldn't let me watch TV when I was growing up. It was go to school, come home, she would lock me in the room, and that was it. If I had to go use the bathroom, I would have to go down to the floor and say, Mommy, I gotta use the bathroom. And then it was always with fear, because she would open up the room, snatch you by the hair, beat you up, bring you to the bathroom, talk to you politely, wait for you, beat you up, and throw you back in the room. That type of stuff. So I didn't have to worry about that no more. And I discovered marijuana. Marijuana became my best friend. Marijuana and cigarettes. And I left there and I went into a place called Mount Loretto. That's what brought me to Staten Island, to an orphanage, because God intervened again, and I explained to the social worker everything that was going on at that point in my life, and he was like, so would you like to go to some place where there's a lot of grass, trees, kids like yourself, and you know, you don't have to worry about that, and you just go to school, and you come back, and grab him, go take care of you, you could eat. And for me, I was like, sure, who wouldn't want that? I mean, I wouldn't have to worry about my mother beating me up every day, and kicking my butt for nothing, and beating up my sister for nothing, and burning her hair, and burning her, and torturing her, and I didn't have to deal with that no more. I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And that's when God intervened in my life. And he took me out of that environment and brought me to Mount Loretto, brought me to Staten Island back in 1980. I'm sorry if I got a little choked up. But it is what it is. And only God can. I got it. We don't need payphones anymore. Now we got them on our wrists. Gotta call 911 back then, right?
Yes.
And they brought me to Mount Loretto. And I like to call Mount Loretto a teenage wasteland. It was every teenager's dream. I mean, I would go there, I went there, and as long as you went to school, and you were back in time for the curfew, counselors really didn't care what you were doing, as long as you weren't destroying the property. So I like to say that the foster home system and the orphanage prepared me for the prison system. I didn't know that yet.
Wow.
It was getting me ready.
Wow.
I didn't realize that, though. So that's what we did. We went to school. We went to school high. We stayed high all day. I remember riding a 103 bus. That's what they used to call the 78, the 103. And we used to ride the 103 all the way down to Park Hill. We'd walk over to the hill. We'd go into the projects. We'd cop our weed. We'd come back on the bus. We'd ride the bus all the way back to Mount Loretto. And that's all we did. Every week. Get high, go to school. Get high, go to school. Drink, we'd walk into the woods. We'd walk a mile into the woods and end up somewhere in Pleasant Plains. And then I discovered alcohol. We'd buy beer. And then I really started to have a good time. I was really definitely forgetting. I learned by using alcohol and weed and women, because I discovered girls at that time in my life, I could escape who I was. But all three of these things helped me to feel good about me. I didn't have to worry about any of that stuff anymore. I just was feeling good. I was partying. I was having a great time. I was going to school, had a girlfriend, had my weed, had my beer, had my Newports, and a few dollars in my pocket. I was good. It was better than me when I was growing up. I didn't have a mother or a father to tell me what to do, when to do, and how to do it, and I had counselors that just didn't give a crap about me.
Wow.
All they wanted to do was go there, go to work, make their money, and make sure that I was in there when it was time for a shift change, and that was it. And that's what happened on Mount Loretto. I'm just shutting it down and making it real brief. And I left there when I aged out. Aged out is the term that they give you when the state of New York, can no longer legally make money off of you, because through the foster home system and the orphanage, I was what they considered a ward of the state, which was the name of the book that I'm writing, by the way, Ward of the State. And that's what I was. For all those years, the state of New York was making money off of me, preparing me for the penal system where they could continue to make money off of me. But I didn't know that. So you couldn't tell me anything, because like most teenagers, I knew everything. If you ever want to know anything in life, this is what I tell adults. Ask a teenager, they know it all. They will let you know too. Never forget to ask the teenagers, they knew it all. I knew it all. And I aged out. And what they did at the age of 19 was they took me to a place over there by the ferry, paid 1 month's rent for a furnished room, and said, see you. So there I was, no longer on board of the state, no longer living in the orphanage, aged out, furnished room. And what did I know about life? I didn't know nothing about paying electric bills. I didn't know nothing about how to iron your clothes. I didn't know how to do my laundry. I didn't know if you had to go shopping to buy food. I didn't know any of the usual things that somebody being raised up in a regular family, people with regular family would know. So I did what I did best. I survived. See, as an addict, I learned that, we are survivors. I'm a survivor. And as long as, and the funny thing was, I never lived in the neighborhood before the week was over. I knew where the weed spot was. I knew where to go get my beer and my liquor. I knew where to get my cigarettes. I knew everything I needed to know as an addict, because that was who I was. And I took that my teenage years into my 20s. And I finished smoking weed when I joined the Navy. God helped me to survive all that insanity, and He put a woman in my life. I met her in cosmetology school, and when I learned how to be a hairdresser. See, the plan was, I'm going to become a hairdresser, I'm going to be a lot of women. That was the plan. That was a good plan, right? Yeah. Needless to say, literally I know that God had His own plan. He said, that's going to be your wife. And I met her, and we met, and she was the one that was always trying to straighten me out. Went into the Navy, stopped smoking, stopped drinking. But then I learned in the Navy how to be a real alcoholic. Think about it. You got men from 50 different states, from all these different cities and all these different places in the United States of America, and every one of them have their own special drink. Right. And they have their own little drinking games. You take all these men, you put them on a boat, and you ship them off miles away from home and all the people that they love. Lonely, heartbroken, missing all their people. Liberty call. Everybody gets off the boat. Where do we go? To the watering hole. What do? We get drunk. The United States of America is being protected by a bunch of drunks. As we speak right now, we are protected by people that are just straight up alcoholics. And I learned how to drink. I learned about Jack Daniels. I learned about all these scotches. And I learned about vodka. And me, I was just, back in the days, I was just a Colt 45 kind of guy. That's all I drank. That or Old English 800. That's all I drank. Eventually, I ended up drinking Budweiser. I drank so much Budweiser, but I learned that Budweiser stands for because you deserve what every individual should enjoy regularly. Budweiser. Yeah. I enjoyed it, but it destroyed my life. It destroyed my military career. Got into a lot of trouble because of the alcohol. Long story short, I couldn't finish the career. I had to get out after I 3.5 years. I got discharged. Then I went home. And then me and my wife, we were on rocky terms, so she went to live with her mom. And I went to live with a friend of a friend. And I was drinking, and the girls that were there, they were smoking. So I said to them, hey, what are you smoking? No, you don't want none of this, Ralph. Me being the addict that I am, in my mind, I'm going to try everything at least once. That was my thinking. At least once. And I said, give me that. I said, man, I'm smoking. Put the stem in my mouth. I said, okay, when I tell you to breathe, you're going to breathe. I said, okay, no problem. So she lit it up. She said, go ahead, breathe, and slow. Oh, yeah. I discovered crack cocaine. See, but I wasn't a crackhead. You know why I wasn't a crackhead? Because I would only smoke every once in a while. Payday would come every 2 weeks. I promised myself I'm only going to spend 100. I'd definitely get home on time by a certain time, and that was the plan. But the plan never worked like that. And one day I came home, and there was nothing there but a letter on the table, and my wife telling me she's sorry, but that she couldn't take it anymore. That she loves me and she wishes me luck. God intervened, and I didn't see it. You would think that I would have gotten better after that, because in my heart, I wanted to get better. But my addiction didn't care about what I wanted. My addiction didn't care about what I needed. My addiction didn't care how much I loved them. My addiction didn't care about none of that. All my addiction wanted to do was be fed. That's all. To be fed. At that point in my life, I didn't realize that I didn't know how to deal with my emotions either. I didn't know how to deal with my feelings. So I dealt with my feelings the way that a kid normally deals with the feelings, because emotions, that's how old I was. I was just a big kid. So I dealt with the breakup the way that a kid would. I got high. I would drink and drink and drink and reach a certain point where all of a sudden it was like something would happen in my mind where, like, I like to say, like, you know, if it was a train station, that the train would stop and the doors were open, I would leave the A train for alcohol and run across the tracks to go to the C train and go get some cocaine now. It was like automatic. The train would stop, and I would cross the platform and jump onto the C train because it was time to smoke crack. I didn't want to ride the A train anymore. I didn't want to drink anymore. I reached that level of drunk. So that's what I did. And I would go smoke crack. And that just destroyed me. In less than a year, I was in prison. See, in the addict's mind, in my addictive thinking, in my addictive mind, when I reached the point where I had no more money, and I started jonesing. Does anybody know what jonesing means? I don't know. Jonesing. I started geeking, started fiending, started wanting, started craving, started desiring. I had no more money in my pocket. You know, my addictive thinking was like, just go rob the store. I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Well, what other choices do you have? Because you need to keep getting high. My brain was saying, you need to keep smoking, man. Okay. That's what I did. Walked into the first store and I robbed it. I never robbed anybody in my life. I never did a bad thing in my life other than smoke and get high, get drunk and do stupid shit. I never broke the law. But crack didn't care about that. My addiction didn't care about that. There was only so many things that you were going to do. You needed to get high. You had to get high. I had to get high, man. Not getting high was not an option. I had to. And the first time I ran into a business and I robbed them and I got away, I found a new high. I found a new rush. Oh, I can just run in and grab money and just go out and keep the party going. Don't have to work at all. He's better than me. And in my addictive mind, I didn't see anything wrong with that behavior. It was all part of the game, man. It was all part of the code of the street. The strong survive. If you want to keep getting high, you do whatever you have to do to get high. It's get high or die. And that's what I did. And I transformed. I went from the working man, I went from the husband, I went from the civilian to slowly began to become the crack-headed addict. But in my mind, I wasn't an addict. I have a problem. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm just smoking, doing what I'm supposed to do. Just like my man. Everybody understands that, right? I didn't see the change. How it just destroyed my moral fiber, my value system, and just anything that I loved and believed in, it just eroded away and just destroyed it to the point where nothing mattered anymore. I didn't see that. All I saw was I need to get high. I needed to smoke that next hit, man. And I wasn't going to do something in the hallway and prostitute myself like some people had to do in order to keep getting high. That was a no for me. I would rather go out there and rob someone than allow a man to violate me physically so I can keep getting high. Those are my choices. So I did what I had to do. And I went on a run. I just went all up and down Bay Street. They called me the Bay Street Terrorist. Just robbed them all. And just kept getting high. Because I didn't want to deal with my feelings anymore. I didn't want to accept the fact that she was gone. I didn't want to accept the fact that I destroyed the one thing that was pure and good to me. I didn't want to accept that. My son wasn't going to be there. I couldn't accept the fact that she had moved on, that there was somebody else in her life now. And every time she would come, that she'd lay it down the line after my first prison bed, I'd come home. And she'd give me my son, and I'd tell us, no more, I'm going to get it together now. Yeah, because I got arrested. I finally got caught. That run stopped. When I was running out the store, and the police were waiting for me. And they caught me, and I found myself on the pavement, my face on the sidewalk, handcuffs being placed on my arms, me being thrown into a squad car, and ended up in a place called Brooklyn House of Detention, being introduced to a world that I never knew existed. Prison. Penal system. I wasn't a criminal, though. I was just an addict, doing what I had to do to keep getting high. I wasn't criminally oriented. I was just an addict. But I didn't know the difference. So I had to serve time, though. It didn't matter. I got a drug problem. That didn't matter. I'm an alcoholic, and that didn't matter. What mattered, as far as the court of the land was concerned, was you, Ralph Michael Rivera, are being charged of robbery in the second and first degree, and this is the charges, and this is the amount of time that you're looking at. How do you plead, Mr. Rivera? Guilty. So they sent me to a place called Shot Camp. I was a 6-month program where I had to go up there for 6 months. But for me, that was nothing because I already served 3.5 years in the Navy, so Shot Camp for me was a joke. But in my heart, I wanted to change. It was over for me. I wasn't going to get high no more. I wasn't going to drink no more. I was going to show my ex-wife that I changed. And when I came home that time, that's what I meant. Until the first time when I visited my son, she dropped off my son, and I got to take my son back on Sunday and put my son in her hand and see her get into the car with her new man. See my son waving goodbye to me as the car pulled away. That was hard for me. So I'm remembering it now. That pain. And I wasn't ready to deal with that type of pain. See, I didn't realize back then that it's not just about putting down the drugs, it's not just about putting down the alcohol, it's also about a lifestyle change. It's about learning how to grow up from the inside out. From the inside out. You got to grow up from the inside out. It's all about what's up here, and that this was the battlefield, but I never understood that. Years later, I began to understand the battle is in between these 2 ears of mine. And everything that I think is how I feel. How I feel, eventually, I have to learn how to cope with, and that's going to determine how I'm going to act. And I didn't know that then. All I knew was that I was in a lot of pain. And you know what? I'm just going to smoke a little weed. I'm going to hang out and do what I usually do. And what happened was I went from the M train back to the A train, from the A train back to the C train, and from the C train, it was only a matter of time before I was robbing people all over again because I had to keep getting high. See, I was caught up in the cycle of addiction, but I didn't realize it. I was just living. Do you understand? And then I got arrested again, and this was my second state bid. The first time was traumatic. I seen things that I never thought I would see. I witnessed things. I experienced things. I seen a man get stabbed to death right before my face, and he just died right there. Been through a lot because of my addiction. But through all that time, I like to tell people that God was with me. I didn't know that he was with me. I didn't even know that he cared about me. But he was there, and he helped me navigate through all that stuff because, you know what? I'm not a gangster. I'm not the toughest guy on the planet. I didn't have that type of heart. I was just an addict, man. And I made bad choices, bad decisions. And now I got caught up in the system because of my bad choices and my bad decisions. And I found myself back upstate in a New York City correctional facility, serving another 2.5 years. And they sent you places where you could get help. Alcohol substance abuse treatment programs. They sent me that. They sent me to daytime where I could learn about my health. And I began to filter some of the information through. And this time I said, that's it for me. I'm not going to do this anymore. And I understood that that part of my life was over. That I was no longer going to be able to get back together with that girl. And that I had to move on. That's part of addiction, learning how to move on. And I had to learn that. So I came home and I began the process of moving on. And for 5 years, I moved on. Went to college, got a driver's license, started doing things what free people do, started doing things what grown folk do. I like to say to people, I'm not grown yet, but I'm grown today. You understand? I'm grown today. I'm not grown yet. I'm grown today. And I'm still growing. I have to keep growing. All right? I'm grown today. And that's what I'm doing. So 5 years came and went. Got involved in another situation, learned about behaviors, got involved in 2 relationships. 2 women for 2 years. Because I was the man, in my mind. But neither did I see that I know that all of that insanity was going to catch up to me. Because I had to understand your emotions. The power of emotions. Lying, cheating, stealing, that's just being unauthentic, that's just being someone that you're really not. All of that's part of recovery as well. Learning how to shed all those skins and just become the person that God intended you to be. Just you. But I didn't realize that. And one night, after everything built up, and I moved out and I moved in, and I'm drinking. I opened up a bottle of Captain Morgan. Anybody see the commercial? Be all you can be, like Captain Morgan. It was time. And I cracked it open. And just gonna have a glass. A glass turned into 2. Before you know it, I drank the whole bottle. Finished that whole bottle. Blacked out. And in the middle of the blackout, I robbed the place. I didn't even get on the C train that time. It was a straight A train. That quick. After 5 years of being clean and sober, 5 years of doing the right thing, going to school, raising family, going to work. 5 years in one night, down the drain. Back to the old me. And as I came out of that blackout, I look into the car, and I see all the money on the seat of the car, and I realized that it wasn't a dream. That I really did this. And I had to make a decision. And when I tell the people the decision, they say, wow, that's crazy. Yeah, my choice was I could either go back and give them the money and apologize and tell them I'll never see you again. I'm sorry I did something stupid because, as you can see, I'm still drunk. Or I could take my chances and go on the run and hope that the Lord don't catch me. And what happens if after 10 years down the road I establish a whole new life and everything is going great and I hear a knock on the door and the man comes to take me away? That was my thought process. I went back to the place. I said, here you go, sir. Here's your money. I'm sorry that I did this. I didn't mean to do this. As you can see, I'm still drunk. And I apologize. You'll never see me again. He said, okay, no problem. He said, but I called the cops. So I said, oh, well, I'll wait. That was hard to do. You know how hard that was? Okay, I'll wait. Because at that point in my life, I understood the importance about being accountable for your actions. Taking responsibility for what I've done. And I waited. And you know what happened? He let me go. And that was great. Until 2 days later, when I'm coming back from college, it was the first sunny day of June. I'll never forget, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Not a cloud. I pulled up the car. Oh, I looked around, and I was surrounded by police holding their guns, just pointing at, get out of the car. And I rolled down the window, and I showed them the cigarette, because back then I used to smoke. And I showed them the cigarette, and stuck my head out, I said, I'll be right out. Found out WNEW, don't remember the name of the song, and I just rocked out to the cigarette. And I said to myself, my life is over. And I knew I was going. I finished the cigarette, and I opened up the door. I came out the vehicle, and I laid down on the ground, put my hands behind my back. I already knew the position by now. Got to the point where I was helping them do their job. I knew it was hard. Please don't get the braces too tight because, it hurts my hand. All right, no problem. And then make it extra tight. Cut off the circulation in your hand. And it was the first day that I'm telling you, it was a sunny, sunny day. I'll never forget it. And the entire neighborhood was out sitting on their stoops that day. I'll never forget that. As they put me in the car and they drove me away. I had to do 2.5 years behind that. Now, I didn't realize it then, but God was saving me, getting me ready for where He wanted me to go, what He wanted me to do. See, the Lord works in mysterious ways, they say. And it was this third state bid that woke me up. And it was up there where, I like to tell people that the Department of Corrections saved my life. They did. They gave me the information that I needed. You see, the state of New York, I told you from the beginning, I was a ward of the state of New York. So what that meant was that the state of New York was my surrogate mom, my surrogate dad. The state of New York were my parents. And as an adult, the state of New York stepped in again. And this time, the state of New York gave me what parents usually give kids when they step out of line. And their form of doing this was, you got to go to jail. And that's what happened. And I went away for another 2 years. And during that time, God began to intervene. And one of the counselors up there said, you look like you're interested in this. Would you mind helping me be a facilitator? I said, what's that? He said, well, you'll be my assistant. You help me out and you hand out the material and things like that. I said, yeah, sure, I could do that. And that's what I did. I started helping the substance abuse counselor, and I began to absorb what he was teaching. I began to understand what he was saying. See, even though on the outside I told you we had to put that facade and we had to put that image out there, because when you find yourself in that environment, you can't be soft. You got to be a certain way. You got to conduct yourself a certain way. And I learned how to do that because I'm a chameleon. You know that, right? I adjust, I adapt, I overcome, I survive all kinds of environments and all kinds of things. That's what I do. That's what I did as an addict. You didn't know I had a problem because I would go to work 9 to 5, do what I had to do, clothes were clean. I never had an issue as far as you were concerned. Ralph got locked up. Are you kidding me? Ralph, what do you do? One of those addicts. See, I wasn't an addict because I wasn't sleeping in the park. I wasn't homeless. I wasn't covered up in newspapers. I wasn't a crackhead because I wasn't smoking like they were every day. I would come only on the weekends when I got paid. I wasn't a dope fiend or anything like that because I didn't look like this person, that person, and the third. See, I was just using. But I was an addict. I am an addict in recovery. Some like to say, well, you've been clean for a long time, and I respect that. God healed me. I'm good. But up until that healing came, and this is what I was. I was an addict. Getting high, getting drunk, doing what I had to do. It doesn't matter, I learned, how much you drank or how much you used. It's what happens when you put it in you. It's what happens when you put it in you. That's what happens when you put it in you. And usually what happened to me every time I got it in me was I would end up in front of the judge somewhere, stand in front of the judge. Ralph Rivera, you've been charged with this, that, and third. How do you plead? Guilty, Your Honor. Are you willing to take this, that, and third? Yes, Your Honor. And thank you. To the point where I would thank him for providing me the opportunity not to have to go to trial, because if I went to trial, then I was looking at doing a whole lot of years. So I'll take this 2.5 years as opposed to having to worry about you giving me 10 to 15 years. And thank you very much for that opportunity. I became conditioned. See, we don't realize as human beings, man, we become conditioned. We became conditioned as addicts. I became conditioned to be an alcoholic. I conditioned myself as a crackhead, conditioned myself to New York City penal system, foster homes and orphanages, and even the military got me ready. I walked into the New York penal system, and for me it was nothing. I already knew what it was like to live with a bunch of men. I already knew what it was like to follow the chain of command and who was the main man and what could be done and what shouldn't be done and how to conduct my. I already knew all that. I was conditioned, man. I was ready to go. So the state of New York saved me. I became what they call a substance abuse counselor assistant, and then eventually I started teaching anger replacement. And then eventually they let me out 6 months early on that last bid. Why do you think they let me out so early? I'm glad you asked. I'm going to tell you why. Because they said, wow, he's been here 3 times. He come back one more time, we got him for life. 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 And let him out. That's what they did. They let me out 6 months early. So I came home in 2005, and a friend of mine, he allowed me to use his basement. I love this man. And he was there for me. He got me an attorney. God allowed me to cultivate a relationship with this man years ago, and because God knew that, yeah, you were going to have, I need you to go help Ralph. That's what he did. Got me the attorney. Never abandoned me. Was there for me. Never judged me. Never looked down on me. Just treated me like Ralph. To this day. To this day. My friend. I love him like a brother. Never judged him. It's good to have people like that in your life. People that don't look at you and go, shh. That one? So I came home and I stepped in the basement, and that day I opened up the door and I looked, and there was like spider webs. Because he warned me. He said, Ralph, nobody's done anything in there for a long time. So I don't care, John. As long as I got a place to lay down, I'll take care of it from there. There was mold and mildew, no bed, no nothing, ice cold showers. And I laid there and I felt sorry for myself. I said, man, at least up in prison, man, I had hot water, I had clean sheets and a nice soft bed. So I took the blanket, I made my coat a blanket, I had a pillow, and I put it under my head. And I learned how to do this in prison. What I learned how to do, I like to share, is I learned how to pat myself on the back and tell myself today was a great day. Why, Ralph? Why? And I would talk to myself, because you didn't get high today, Ralph.
Amen.
You didn't get high. No matter what I'm going through, Christmas, looking out the window, lump in my throat, missing my family, people that I love, people that I cared about. Today's a great day, Ralph. Why, Ralph? Because you didn't get high. Missing people, you didn't get high. People getting packages and letters, they call all the bed numbers, they skip over yours. Today's a great day, Ralph. Why, Ralph? Because you didn't get high, man. So as I laid there, man, there was no bed and everything, I said the same thing. I took the good thing that I learned in prison and I applied it to my life, and I said, today was a great day, Ralph. Not because they let you out of prison, and not because you rode the bus, and not because you were able to get a Big Mac, and not because you were able to get on the ferry, not because you were able to find your way home, not because you had a home to go to. No, today was a great day, Ralph, because you didn't get high, man. It's always a great day if you don't get high. You learn anything from Pastor Ralph, that's the message. Today is a great day. Why, Ralph? Because I didn't get high. I didn't get drunk. I didn't allow life circumstances, the good and the bad, the happy and sad, and all the in-between, to cause me to make that choice, to make that decision. The wrong choice, wrong decision. Didn't get high. And I promised myself, hey, how you doing? I promised myself that night. I said, tomorrow morning, when I wake up, I'm going to do what I have to do. And I did. I got up and I went to work. I had a job waiting for me, a construction job. And I went to work. I walked everything I had to walk. I forgot how far I had to walk, but I walked. And I walked and I got on the bus. And all I had was a Metro card. And I went to work. I didn't have no money for lunch. They called the lunch break. I didn't care. I sat there, just waited until lunch was over. And I'd go to work, do what I do. Then I'd walk all the way to the bus stop, walk all the way home. And until the first paycheck came, which was 2 weeks later, that's all I did, man. I had just enough money for one meal. And that was dinner. And I would go home and I would make sure that I would take the shower. Even though the shower was cold, it was ice cold. I would take a nice ice cold shower. And I would say, okay, Ralph, today is a good day. Why is it a good day, Ralph? Because I didn't get high today. Didn't get high. Then I ran to the welfare and I filled out the paperwork. Because I was eligible for welfare. Because when you come out of prison, you're eligible for all that stuff, right? So I took good advantage of that. And I said, yeah, I came out of prison. Here's my papers. Can I get some food stamps, please? That's what they did. They gave me some food stamps, gave me a Medicaid card, and every 2 weeks they give me some pocket money. I was good with that. I was good. I was starting to grow up. See, recovery is a process. Just like anything in life, you have to start to grow up. And I began to grow up in my recovery at that point in my life. I started working, started receiving public assistance. I reached the point where I was starting to make enough money where I had to do something that I wasn't used to doing. And what was that? I had to learn how to get honest. You see, I could have got over and worked off the books like a lot of us do. But I didn't realize that God was getting me ready, because if you're a man of God or a woman of God, the truth is truth, right is right, and wrong is wrong, always, no matter what. This is something that we learn with time. But coming into recovery early in my life, right was right only when it was okay and convenient for me to get high. See, if it was wrong, I would make it right so I could get high. See, so my moral compass was wrong. Everything was off. So I had to learn how to recalibrate that
And that took time where right was right and wrong was wrong all the time, no matter what. Right is right, wrong is wrong, period. And that's a process that I had to go through. So I had to go back to public assistance and say, all right, listen, I got this job. I'm making this amount of money. And I just want to know, am I going to still be eligible for public assistance? And then they explain, okay, you're going to be eligible for this. And on this date, this will stop. And on this date, this will stop. And on this date, this will stop. And that was a scary thought. Because for the first time in my life, man, I had to depend on myself. I learned how to survive in prison. I learned how to hustle. I learned how to get my cigarettes. I learned how to get my food, my jar of peanut butter, my jar of jelly, a loaf of bread, a brick of coffee. I did what I had to do to survive in that environment. So I could survive, so I could eat. So I took the same mindset out into the world. The same hustler mentality that I used in the prison system, I brought into the world. And in my mind, I said to myself, for those of you who don't know, commissary is where you go in prison to go shopping, to buy your food. They give you a list of stuff you can purchase. You write out a list. You go pick up your goods. That's called commissary for those of you who don't know. And when you say on the rec, that means they're going to let you outside into the yard. So I'm going to give you some prison terminology. So what I said to myself was, wow, I go to commissary every day now. I go to ShopRite, Pathmark, whatever stores there are. I write my own list and go shopping anytime I want. See, I see it in my mind. And I got freedom. Where you going, Ralph? I'm going to commissary, kid. I'm going to the commissary. I'll go to commissary and buy whatever I want. And as far as rec was concerned, the yard was concerned, I go to the yard right now. Every time I open this door, I'm going to the yard. It's all in my mind. See, I began to bid on the outside like I bidded on the inside to survive. I'm bidding now as I speak. Bidding means doing time. So I'm serving time. I'm serving time for the Lord. That's another story. We'll get to that. But at this point in my life, I was just starting to get my feet wet and begin to navigate and go through all the growing pains. Because recovery is all about growing up. And a lot of people don't understand that. I tell my patients that. I say, listen, it's time for you to do. I tell my patients, you got to do big girl things now. Yeah, you got to do big girl things. That's how I talk to my daughter Tiffany. When she was little, I said, I know, Mommy, I know you don't want to do, but you got to do big girl things now, okay? You think you could do that? I can do it. I know you can. Come on, Mommy, I'll be right here behind you. And that's recovery. You got to do big boy things. You got to handle it. You got to wipe the snots off your face. You got to wipe your tears. You got to stand up tall, tighten up your belt, put your chest out. Take that deep breath. You ever notice after you cry, you got to get a good yeah. Those last sniffles in there. That's recovery, man. Some of us, recovery really kicked our butts, man. You may not want to admit it. I'll say it for you. Recovery, addiction kicked my butt. I mean, it beat me down and took me places I never thought I'd go. It showed me who the boss was, and it wasn't me. Shut up. Okay. You're going to use it? Uh-huh. All right, go ahead, smoke that shit. Okay. You like that? Uh-huh. Good. Addiction. The boss. But it can only be the boss as long as you allow it to be the boss. You need to replace that boss with another boss. The boss of bosses. Christ Jesus. When I began to slowly transform my life, my wife, God bless her, because God allowed me to meet another woman, Christian woman, and she would always bother me, bro. Bobby, when you going to church? I'd be like, tomorrow, sweetheart, tomorrow. See, I'm tired, I've been working all day. Everything. She would go, Bobby, when you going to church? Until eventually she bopped me to death. So one day on Halloween, October 31st, 2007, 2 years after I got out of I finished doing my third prison bid. Because I was joking with him. He said, wow, Ralph, only in America, right? I said, yeah, only in America. You could go from a prison to a pulpit. Only in America. Only in America. You could go from being a crackhead and an alcoholic to a pastor. Only in America can you go from being the lowest of the low to hanging out with the highest of the high. Amen. Only in America can you do that. Only in America can you go from being a dope fiend to being a born-again Christian. A God-fearing, Holy Spirit-feeling, loving individual. Only in America. That's what I like to say. And God took me there. I have plans though. These are my plans on Halloween. I said, she said, Papa, you going to church with me tonight? I said, honey, let me take the kids trick-or-treating. And after I take them trick-or-treating, fine, I'll go with you to church. He said, okay, you promise? I said, I did. So we took the kids trick-or-treating. Kids went out, we had a great time with the kids, came back with bags all filled. She was waiting for me. She said, here. I said, what's that? He said, you got to wear a shirt and a tie. I said, what? She said, go ahead, go take a nice shower, get dressed. You're going to go meet Jesus. All right, fine. Whatever. My plan was just to shut her up and leave me alone. Fine, I went to church already. All right, leave me alone. That's my plan. But God had his own plan.
That's right.
That's the thing we have to understand. While I'm busy making my plans, thinking I know what's going on, the man upstairs is making his plans. And last I heard, he's the author.
That's right.
He writes all the stories. As far as Ralph Michael Rivera is concerned, the ink is still not dry. God is still writing my story. Still writing about me. So during that 2-year period, it was the first 2 years of my life that I lived without getting high. I lived without getting drunk, other than in the penile system where you can get high, you can get drunk, but I chose not to. But I don't count that time. I count the time when I hit the streets. And for 2 years, I didn't use anything. And on that day, I went to church. This was October 31st. And I sat in the back of the church. I sat in the last and the furthest seat from the pulpit. I was way at the corner. And she was over in front. Hallelujah. I was like, I'm not with her. Funny thing happened. And the preacher began to preach. Yeah, it was sort of like, God was talking directly to me. And that was kind of weird for me because, he would start talking and I'm trying to ignore him. But like I'm just hearing everything that he was preaching about. And he just delivered his message. And when the service was over, he did what they call an altar call. That's when does anybody want to accept Christ into their lives as a personal Lord and Savior. And I remember sitting in that chair, and I wanted to stand up. And I always share this. I couldn't get up. I mean, it was a struggle for me to stand up, literally to stand up. I wanted to stand up, and that was when I prayed. Because I prayed a lot in prison. They call those foxhole prayers. I promised God a million times that I would change my life around, that I wouldn't do this, that, and third. And I promised God, as long as you give me, oh Lord, please don't let me have to do those 5 years. Please let the judge say, let me go home. Every bus ride from Rikers Island to Staten Island on Supreme Court, a million prayers. Shackled, chained next to the next person, riding the bus, looking out the window, just talking to the Lord and saying, Lord, help me make it through this. And I said that type of prayer until everything went well, and then I forgot about my promises, because I was good. It was like, all right, Lord, good looking now, you heard? Yeah, I'll call you next time. Yeah, I'm out. I turn my back on him. Because he doesn't turn his back on us, right? I turn my back on him. Turn it on him. And God, I believe, is like this. I like to tell my patients this. When we don't listen to the people that God puts in our lives, then God will allow life to come in to the classroom of your world and begin to teach you the lessons that you need to learn. And that more often than not, those lessons are always, 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 always painful. And they get your attention, because pain is the one thing that most of us needed in order to wake up and realize, hey, yo, I got a problem. So that day I stood up and I said, Lord, if you help me get up, I will go up there and I will accept Christ as my personal Lord and Savior. And I got up and I walked slowly to the front. And I put my head on the preacher's shoulder that day. And he looked down at me and he goes, do you want to accept the Lord as your personal Lord and Savior? I had this big lump in my throat. Eyes were tearing. I said, yes. He said, repeat after me. I said the sinner's prayer. I felt like something broke inside of me. And I just began to cry. And I like to say, and the boogers were running out my face too. And I like to tell people, when I find boogers running out my face and my eyes just uncontrollably just tearing, I love to be in that space. But that's when I feel like I'm closest to Him. That's when I'm just letting it all out. That's when I'm just, just being me. And I like to tell people when I preach, men cry. Real men cry. I remember when I was in prison, man, the holiday season, I would just pray for them to turn off the lights. And they'd be like, yo, Ralph, you good? Yeah, I'm good, kid. You know how it is. Yeah, you good? Yeah, man, I'm going to go lift some weights, man. All right, get the weights, all right. Image. But inside, man, when they finally turned that light off, man, I would cover my head up with the blanket, and I would lay there, and I would just let all those tears out, and I would cry like this. Because I didn't want nobody to hear me cry. But I had to get all that stuff out. I had to get that toxins out of me. I had to get it out. And after a good cry, I would always feel good. You ever notice that after a good cry, you feel good? Why do you think God allowed that to happen? I tell my patients, God, this is the creator of the universe, the designer of all things. He knew that the heart was only going to be able to contain so much emotion, that you were only going to be able to hold so much. And even if it came down to just that one extra drop, you put a jug, you put that one extra drop, the water overflows, right? It overflows, right? God knew we were going to need some way to get that out of us. So He created these tear ducts. Isn't that an amazing thing that He did? He gave us tear ducts. Why do you think He put them there? Was it an accident? God went, oops, didn't mean for that to happen. All right, no, I got 7 more days, I got to fix the world. No, I didn't do that. God created the tear ducts for a reason to let all that stuff out. Men cry. I cry. And I accepted the Lord into my life. My wife came and she gave me a big hug and she was crying. Because her prayers were answered. Thank God for women that pray for their men.
Yes.
Thank God for mothers that pray for their children. I accepted the Lord into my life. And I tell you, long story short, I think about 2 years later, I went up and I drove up to Providence, Rhode Island. I found my mother. For those of you who don't know, my mother was very abusive to me. Physically, used to beat me up. Just abused me. And I drove up and I found her. And I had my suit on and I had my tie and I had my Bible in my hand. And I rang her doorbell. My mom, she was old now and I was fat and bald. And she was looking, she looked up at me and I looked down at her. And so I said, Mom, I said, do you remember me? And she says, I'm not going to forget my firstborn son. I looked down at her. I said, Mom, I just want to tell you that I love you. And I want to tell you that I drove all these miles just to let you know that I forgive you. Everything that you did to me when I was growing up and to my sisters. I love you. I just wanted to know, can I come in? And she said, thank you for forgiving me. Because she found the Lord too. And she told me that, she's been praying for me because she didn't know where I was all those years. And my mother said, are you hungry? I said, yeah, Mom, I'm hungry. I was like a little kid again. She said, you hungry? I was like, yeah, Mom, I'm hungry. And that little kid, I'm hungry, Mom. She said, come on in. I said, all right, Mom. And it was like she knew I was coming or something. Because, Puerto Rican moms, they OD when they cook. They overdose. They can't cook with a little pot, they big oils, they have these big pots, really deep, with the mad big spoon that looks like a shovel, She had all those pots out, and the lids with the bubbling stuff, And she said, sit down. So I sat down, and I sat down at the table, and she said to me, are you hungry? I said, yeah, Mom, I could eat a little bit. She came like with the crazy big plate, filled with all kinds of stuff. And I looked at the plate, I said, Mom, I'm standing there like 30-something years, right? I said, Mom, how am I going to eat all this? And all that food that I used to complain about, that she used to make, she was always making the same stuff. Rice and beans, this and that, why don't she make some spaghetti, why don't she do this, all the complaints that I had as a kid. Wow, this is great, Mom. Wow, this is awesome. And I just ate all that food. And you can see the smile on her face, and I spent the weekend with her, and we laughed, and we cried, we fellowshipped. This is the present that God gave me. He gave me back my mom, and He let me forgive all of her. Because nobody's perfect, only Christ. So we're in touch to this day. We have Facebook,
And we have FaceTime, and we have Skype, and we have all this other fancy schmancy stuff. And, you know, I go up to see her as often as I can. And, yeah, the relationship is good, thank God. And she knows that I'm still worshiping the Lord. It's been 11 years now. And God is number one in my heart and in my life. And I tell you, the miracle for me is every day I wake up, I'm drug free. I believe that God still